Welcome to Health and Safety Conversations. Here's your host, Tom Bourne.
Where we go. Hi, and welcome to Health and Safety Conversations. I'm your host, Tom Bourne, and with me this evening is Alexsandro Siedschlag. Alexsandro, how are you?
Oh, great, Tom. Oh, great. Thank you. Yourself?
Excellent. Coming all the way from whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in Australia by now, but I'm coming from Brazil, from South Brazil.
Okay. What part of Australia are you in right now?
Queensland, Moranbah North.
Moranbah.
Working on the mines.
What mine are you on? I'm curious.
Grosvenor.
Okay. I spent a
Yeah.
little bit of time up at Caval Ridge there. Is it coal that your mine is on?
Yeah. Underground coal.
Underground. Oh, good. Underground is a challenging environment. Yeah.
It is. It's very, very complex. It's dealing with that, nature and gas, and that's a big challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Alexandra, for those who don't know about you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey in safety? And you've mentioned what you're currently doing, so we might give that a bit, but just how you've come to be in the position you're currently at.
All right. I think we start from the beginning, right? So, Alexander, you can call me Alex. I think that's much easier. Hey. Yeah, I'm Brazilian. I'm 37. Have been in safety since I was very young. Didn't start in safety by passion, just started by occasion. Someone told me to do something different. I went to that technical course and ended up in safety. So on that journey, I started in the maritime industry in a shipping company. Spent a few years doing some training, auditing, facilitating some visits on the ships, navigating through the coast in Brazil. After that, went offshore, working oil rigs, oil and gas rigs offshore, drilling wells for major players in the oil and gas industry, where I learned a lot. I spent a couple of years over there doing rotational work as a safety officer. After that, I decided to spend some time in the corporate side of the business. Went to the headquarters in Rio de Janeiro, brought my family to there, lived a couple of years doing, normal working hours regime. Had a great exposures with regulators and clients and the corporate side of things. It was it this time when I first started to get involved in coaching and coaching for safety. So I took a few qualifications in coaching. First one was more life coaching, which wasn't my thing and still not being my thing. I took a few things from that experience, but then I was looking for more safety related coaching. So I found out a guy in UK called Michael Emery, who was delivering a 2-day training called Coaching for Safety, which got my attention. That's wow, that was what I was looking for, like something that can bring some of the soft skills from coaching to safety. So yeah, I was about to do a family trip to Italy at the time, me, my wife, and my daughter. And then I thought, why not have a step in UK and do that training just before my trip with family? So I did. Was a really good experience that changed a little bit the way I was seeing safety at the time. So after great times in there, came back to home, reflect a little bit and say, well, so what can I do differently on my current role as a safety supervisor, bringing some of those coaching skills to my day to day. And I keep doing that. So by January last year, I started talking to a company which is based in Scotland, which is having a global program with one of the big mining companies. And they were requiring some safety coaches with offshore experience and some coaching qualification. And I look at it and say, yeah, that's me. And apply for the job. And here I am.
Excellent. Can I ask you, what does a safety coach actually do? we know about safety advisors. What's the difference? Safety advisor, safety coach.
I think the big difference, Tom, is the coach doesn't have the answers. So he doesn't give an advice. He doesn't give an answers. He doesn't give training. He promotes and engages in conversations to raise awareness, to help development, and that affects the safety performance by the end of the day. So it's coming from the cop perspective to a coach perspective. So which is interesting because that's people are not used to have that approach coming towards them. Like when they see someone coming, and even if you have a shirt saying safety coach, they would expect someone to approach you and ask you about your risk assessment, ask about your paperwork, ask about your procedures compliance, and the conversation doesn't go in that direction. Conversation goes like what's make your job difficult today, what's different, where do you think there could be a mistake for someone new coming in the team, like what traits you have as a leader that you think can help your team to perform, or what weaknesses you think you have as a leader that can put in against you. So those kind of questions that people usually don't expect it, and that's where the conversation starts. So in a nutshell, is would be a safety coach. He's engaged in work life situations and promote some awareness.
You're talking there about coaching, and as soon as you started, I got the impression, because I've trained trainers in the past, and you're talking about the classical coach, which does not provide the answers and gets the people to actually come up with the answers themselves from within them. So you're not preaching at them, you're not dictating a line of action, you're getting them engaged to come up with solutions for themselves, which is brilliant. No, I like the idea of that.
Yep.
Okay, you said you weren't originally into safety. You wasn't the spark, but you've obviously done it for quite some time. So what headed you down that pathway?
To be honest, at the time I was very young. I wasn't sure what I should do to my life. And then a friend of mine told me, oh, you should go to some of the industrial districts around where we live into some technical training so you can get a job. I said, well, that sounds like a plan, because where I live, it's a very small town in the coast side in southern Brazil. So there's not much other than tourism, fishing, porting, and surfing. So I kept surfing, but I went to do something else. So I ended up on safety. And like I said, across the years, I learned it and I saw how beneficial it is, for people, for society, for the companies, and for the profession as well. So I kind of started getting in love with that. But I think the spark came in when I first got to deal with social skills or soft skills, which, by the way, are the hard ones to apply, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I first met the book Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, I reflect a lot on that. I say, well, there is so much technicality, procedures, laws, and technical knowledge around where we work, and there's not much on social skills. So I kind of like it, and so that's where I started digging down and ended up on the coaching path. So that's how I came to safety, I would say, and kept in safety.
Yeah, coaching and mentoring people. What's the enjoyable part of it for you?
Interesting. I think the enjoyable part is you're looking at the people's potential, not people's performance. Like you start a relationship. Coaching now starts with relationship. If you don't build that relationship and trust and build that rapport with someone else, you actually can't coach, in my opinion. You do have to have some relationship so you can see that person and say, well, I do see potential on him, and and start to helping him to see that the same potential. That can be very simple things like performing a job better, or it can be a more substantial thing like leading a team or an organization in a better way from someone looking outside. So I think they enjoy that moment where people realize that they can do more, they can be better instead of it can be the best, So that's the thing I like.
Yeah. Do you like myself get a kick out of when you see people trying to push themselves to be the best possible, it sounds cliched, but the best possible version of themselves. They're pushing beyond their current comfort zone into something that you clearly can see that they could do, and they start to actually get the clue that, oh, maybe there is something more. Maybe I could do better.
Yeah, and you mentioned something which got my attention, which was the comfort zone. There are some common says like there is a lot of people outside of the comfort zone on top of the Everest. You know what I mean? Like under the snow and just the bones. So I do think there is a place for comfort zone. We do need that. Like relax, sit down, feel that we master what we are doing. And I had that in my career a couple of moments, like when I was 6, 8 years in position, really enjoying knowing everything and knowing everyone, and the drill.
Yep.
But there is also a moment for you being courageous and stepping out a little bit outside of your comfort zone, and that's where your learning come. Like that's where your learning coming from, and that's a piece of the coach's job as well, which is challenge a little bit that person. Because what else could you do differently? That's a very simple and base stuff question that we ask, and then people, well, actually I could do this, da 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 da. And then you go, and what's stopping you on going that direction? Oh, I might need just to plan myself to take the time for that. And then, all right, so you have a plan. So what the future looks like for you next week? Actually, I'm gonna do that. So you see them growing from not even realizing what they could do to actually having a plan in place. But by the end of the day, all relies on their commitments. I'm not doing anything. The coach is not doing anything for them. It's up to them really committing themselves to do the change they want. And that does not happen always. Like there are some cases where it just stops on the words and the action doesn't come. So, and then there is another piece of work which is following up. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. You've worked, as you said, offshore and currently working on or underground. Which do you prefer and why?
I would say offshore because of the sea. Like I said, I like to surf. I like the sea. I like to be around the sea. So yeah, I would say offshore. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And how are you finding underground? Is it a bit more challenging than perhaps you thought?
It is. Yeah, I had no idea how the business happens underground, and how complex it is. I think most of people don't have a clue as well, which remind me a little bit offshore. Like they are both very complex social technical systems. Like a high level technology, dealing with nature force such as gas and strata. A lot of people come in different rotations and swings, and like a fatigue management both. So they're really really similar in broader aspects, but they are very distinct in the way the things are done as well.
Ask you a question out of the blue because I saw a little article today. It was about Australia is desperately struggling with skill shortages for people, for basically people working in the mines, skilled experts in their roles. Is that what you're finding in North Queensland?
I'm seeing people coming from overseas. Yeah, I can give a couple of examples on the mine I'm working. Like there is a South African guy who just joined the geological team. There is a Brazilian lady last couple of months who came from a big Brazilian company in the mining joining the planning team. So yeah, I think they are seeking for hands and specialized hands, especially in this case, I would say. Yeah.
What sort of curiosity? What sort of swing are you on currently?
I'm doing 28 on, 20 on, 28 off. So I'm traveling straight from Brazil, go to the mine sites, stay a month in there, and go home and stay a month in home.
Don't want to get too personal, but is that tough on your family?
It is. So it's not easy, and I think it's not something which I would do for the rest of my life. It's an experience. It's a challenge I took to myself for a certain period of time. It's really tough for myself, for my family, for my kids. So like I said, I have two kids, one 3-year-old boy and one 9-year-old girl, plus my wife. So it's pretty hard to leave home. Once you are here, once you are settled, things goes fine and fast. But it's always a challenge to be away from home for such big period,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. You've had a fairly long career so far in safety. What's been the most rewarding role you've had?
Oh, my leader is gonna love that, but it's actually my current role, and it is, with all the honesty. Like I said, I found in coaching and developing a very pleasant role to play. So far, so good. It's not easy, I would say, because my job relies on others, people availability and commitment. Doesn't rely on me on getting things done. The best I can do is try to promote an environment where they trust me and where they want to engage with me. But nothing is done if they are not on board. So that's the frustrating part, I would say. Sometimes you don't get that much, but there are good days and bad days, and so far majority have been good days.
Good. All right. Interesting question. I've had a few people with different opinions on, and I've got one gentleman
Here we go.
coming up shortly. Safety culture.
All right.
Alex, is it real? Is it real?
Do we need to put the word safety? Could we just talk about culture, right? I mean, if you ask, there is a safety culture. If you want to talk about safety, yeah, you can say there is a safety culture, but in general, it's just culture. There will be a team culture. There will be, a compliance culture. You can put it whatever you want in front of the culture. It's just how people interact with each other, I would say.
Yeah, look, I think that's a pretty good definition, because I've had people say this definitely is. I've had people saying this definitely not. Culture is culture is culture is culture. And there definitely is culture at different environments. There's different cultures on different sites. There's cultures within different teams. There's cultures within the same and different companies. And
yeah, absolutely.
Is the way that we treat safety or value safety different in Australia than other places you've been?
There are differences, but I don't think that's a country related. I think that's more it's a region or not sure. Nationality plays a lot on that, but I can give you an example. Like people from Latin America, they are much more emotional based. They are much more reactive and acting up in the moment. When people from Australia and from UK, from Netherlands, they are more factual, they are more cool, they are more plan based and detail based. So these are the difference, I would say. That's of course a very general statement. Each person, subcultures, there are sub personalities as well. But it's in a general way, that's how I would describe. And interesting, you mentioned that there is a study done in the past, maybe 90s, called Lewis model.
Mhm.
where he brings like a couple of nationalities in some pockets and describe how they would operate in a general manner. That's a pretty interesting reading, I would say, for those who are working with international companies and international cultures. And that describes a little bit like when Asian-based nationalities, they would be very strong on command and control, and that's another description that we could give in that, and very rule based, so not much emotions or arguments against the rules. So what is said is done. So yeah, but there are difference. There are general difference, and that affects, I would say, considerably how safety is done as well.
Yeah. Ask, you talked about people from Australia, the UK, Norway, and that very much factual based, very much a lot less emotional. Do you think that would be a bit detrimental, that we're not, I don't know, taking things more holistically? We're basically looking at figures and statistics and stuff in cold black and white?
Actually, I think there is no right or wrong on that. I think they will call as per the situation needs. Like you can take benefits on being more emotional driven relationship, but you also can lose things on sticking too much on that. Like you can have benefits on being factual and planning detail based, but you might lose some relationship influence on having that emotional side. So I think that's all about balance, as anything in life. Like you need to be self-aware of where you are and what you need to do from there.
Okay. Now, most people who think about safety, I find, tend to read a bit. Tell me, is there any book in the safety sort of genre that has influenced you and your beliefs about safety more than others?
The one I mentioned before, Daniel Goleman, on emotional intelligence, I think that's a must read for people in safety who would like to go above and beyond the technical skills. Like that's a first place to start. More safety related, I would mention Clive's book, The Next Generation of Safe Leadership. That's an amazing book. I have mentioned that for so many people in my networking. I think all of them must read that. Actually, I'm trying to facilitate someone to translate that to Portuguese, because I think Brazilians would take a lot of benefit from that. So,
Yeah.
so that's an amazing book. Definitely a must read for any safety professional.
It's got a lot in it for such a small book. I think it's around 90 pages, and I'm like, it's got a good impact. You can have books that go on and on and on, but they just don't get to the point as much. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
It's not just that I agree with Clive on many things. The book makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I think his language on book is easy to deal with. Like even though he's coming from a psychology background, he goes very easy on the language. He talks about real work situations where he were exposed. So I reckon myself in many of them. That's why I really like this book. Especially in my last couple of years, I would say, since I've been involved in coaching and trying to do safety in a different way. So yeah, he hit the nail on the language, I would say.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Most safety professionals I've ever spoken to are extremely frustrated individuals because of certain things in the workplace. Is there anything in the workplace that frustrates Alex more than others?
Well, I think when people are so attached to numbers, ratings, frequency, when they're attached to things which are not real, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This frustrates a little bit me. That was one of my first frustration in my role in the past, having to do all that counting and and doing things which didn't make any sense for me. So I think we're still having a lot of that. There is a big movement, as you well know, on doing safety differently, looking at a new view and hop and all that stuff, whatever we want to call it. So there's a big movement going on, but there's so many people that haven't even heard about it, and they're still, religiously attached to that and think that safety will come from that number.
Yeah, I can tell you, despite the fact that we hear and read about new view safety, hop, etc., etc., I can tell you at the front lines there is still some surprisingly amount of I don't know, command and control sort of thinking, and you'd think that would be going away, but it's like a weed. It's just persistent. And I can be honest and say there are certain situations where that might be a useful approach, an emergency sort of life and death situation. But I've been surprised by how resistant those ideas are to change, to be honest.
Yeah. And you mentioned on command and control and situations where they are required. And this is something we share with people on site, especially leadership, when we give them a little bit of more knowledge in theories and models to work with. And one of the models says how much you would balance your coaching, mentoring, asking, and how you would play around that training. And that's what we mentioned to people, like telling people what to do is not the only option, but coaching, also asking questions, not the best option for every situation. Like you brought a very simple scenario, emergency. Under an emergency, you would not coaching the person, what do you think should be done right now to, you know what I mean? Like
yeah, absolutely.
to put the fire out. Well, I don't know. Well, have a think and come back later. No, you're gonna tell them then what to do. Someone who is brand new in the industry, have no clue what's going on. You're gonna tell them the first times. So yeah.
Exactly right. That's the other situation I always think about is new people, where you've actually got to be highly directive and actually high level of supervision. There is someone with zero experience. You can't say, well, what do you think we should do? Because they've got nothing to draw on.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's good. All right. Currently studying. What are you studying?
I'm taking an MBA on HSC Management System and Human Factors. It's an online MBA in Brazil. So yeah.
And what's the big plan? What's the goal at the end of Alex's career? What are you hoping to achieve?
I would say in a short term, I want to take coaching for safety to a broader audience. I'm actually having conversations with that fellow in UK, Michael Emery, to bring that course to Brazil in Portuguese. That course is under an IOSH credential. Not sure if you have heard about IOSH before.
Yep.
So we got that credential. I can facilitate that training. Now we are going to the commercial side of that and advertise that course in Brazil and see if we can reach more people who are not able to travel overseas or speak in English. So we're gonna bring that up to those people. Yeah, that's the short term. And long term, I want to keep working on those high complex social technical industries such as mining, oil and gas, and perhaps going to aviation at some times. Yeah.
Excellent. And curious, is the family still in that little village?
Still there, lovely place. We brought a house last year, really nice backyard. That's where my safe space is, like when I go there, have my cup of coffee, playing with my dog and enjoying the quality time I have at home for 28 days. So yeah.
Fantastic. I got to tell you, when you were talking about the small village which has surfing and fishing and stuff like. I felt like I don't know if I'd leave that, to be honest, because it sounds pretty idyllic. But I suppose we do have bills to pay and mouths to feed and stuff like that. So yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, that's the interesting part. Like the village has 4 traffic lights, and usually 2 are not working. So, so you can go easily on traffic jams and all this stuff. But yeah, it's a good place. There are some downsides on not having all the facilities you would have in a big center, but I'm happy. So all good.
Very good, very good. All right, Alexsandro, I really do appreciate you being on tonight, and it's been an absolute pleasure. But for now, time's running out, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Awesome, Tom. Thanks for having me, and enjoy the conversation. See you around.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Health and Safety Conversations with Tom Bourne. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your week.